Oh, welcome to another fun, outstanding fucking episode of the Smoky Mountain Re-Watch-Along Project. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. And it is episode number 80 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from August 7th, 1993, taped July 19th, 1993 at the Whitley County Middle School in Williamsburg, Kentucky. I'm ARYA. That's TRAE. Welcome to the fucking apocalypse.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I understand, but just your tone through that whole thing was just fucking historical. Like you could only listen to that clip like 10 years from now, 50 years from now. You can listen to that clip and know exactly what today is when you hear that fucking voice.
I don't even know what the fuck to say at this point. I don't.
I
And I, I can't fucking believe it. It's just, I mean, all last night when we were recording the show and after we got done recording the show, I just had so many 2016 vibes. It wasn't even funny. And sure enough, I wake up at like 5:15 Eastern time this morning, and Trump had something like 264 votes or 268 or some shit like that. And CNN was like, yeah, he's going to win. And then like within 10 minutes, he fucking won. And I had a I had a fucking panic attack. And like a lot of people, especially within the LGBT community, especially the transgender community, there's a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of uneasiness, and to be perfectly fucking honest, it's just I I really didn't want to do this fucking show today, but also wanted the fucking distraction of watching some, old school wrestling and getting a laugh or two, and I did. And now I'm here, Trey, and we're here talking, and we're not really talking about wrestling at the moment.
Yeah, uh, I only have the just horror at the collapse of decent society. Okay, I don't have the personal fear that's being experienced by people of color, women, LGBT people. I don't have that, so all I can say is solidarity, and I just hope whatever I can do to help protect you, that I have the ability and the moral courage to do.
I appreciate that. I'm just, I don't even, I don't think depressed is the right word for how I'm feeling right now because I don't know. Like, I'm not depressed. I'm a bit manic. I'm a, you know, and I'm just, I don't know. Like right now, like it's hard to put one foot in front of the other right now. Like it took me forever to get out of bed this morning. And if my bladder didn't decide otherwise, I might still be in bed right now. You know, I I just don't fucking know right now because there's gonna be there's people who are gonna listen to this, and we joke about we only have one listener, but we obviously have a few more than one. But there are going to be people listening to this like, oh, well, what's the big fucking deal? What's this? What's that? It's like, it is a big fucking deal. You know, I'm really happy if you're listening to this right now and you don't have to worry about, your rights being taken away, about having to live in fucking abject fear for the next generation because it's not like, okay, Trump's gonna fucking kill the United States, but in 4 years, somebody with a brain's gonna get in and fucking, fix everything overnight. No, that's not what's gonna fucking happen. You know? Welcome to the next 20 plus fucking years of our lives. And I don't fucking know anymore what to do or say because it really doesn't fucking matter. Because today and last night have proved every fucking worry I had, proved every fucking thing that people have said. People are fucking selfish. They're fucking shit. They're just I can't fucking stand people right now.
Okay,
And
this is.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. This is gonna sound really fucked up. It's actually strangely like a balm to my depression, but I'm gonna explain that, and it's gonna sound
Hmm.
less fucked up after I explain it. I, on a day-to-day basis, spend so much time obsessing over how much I hate myself that today, the fact that I'm zeroed in on how much I hate other people, how much I hate the world, that's not as existentially upsetting as me hating myself.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why I would say I'm not depressed because I don't fucking hate myself. I hate a lot of fucking people right now, but myself isn't one of them.
Yeah.
And
This is and again, I know that I'm not experiencing what like people from marginalized populations are experiencing. I'm strictly experiencing this from the perspective of a privileged, heteronormative cisgender white man. You know, I'm only experiencing it as through the lens of being an educated person and a former student of history who is just horrified to see what is happening to this country. And I am just personally very upset because you got to understand, I grew up in fucking the backwoods of Arkansas, a very small, rural kind of area. And I feel personally wronged by them as a population in that these are the same people, the people who were the adults in my world when I was a child, sold me a vision of America that I really believed in, that I always thought on a fundamental level that America was something worth fighting for, something worth working toward, and it was because of this vision of a land of opportunity where anybody who will do the work has a chance to succeed no matter what kind of origins they come from. That's the vision of America that the people in my world sold to me as a child, and then they have spent my whole adult life trying to make sure I never get it.
it's just before 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday right now. I literally about an hour ago ate for the first time today because I just couldn't, you know. I, f food was not appealing to me in any way, and even now it's really still isn't. It's more just, you know, forcing myself to do something. I'm just disgusted. I'm just defeated. Like it's not like this is the fucking first time. This piece of shit, this is the second fucking time.
It's so much worse.
This is the
The first
second
one,
fucking time.
the
Like,
first one, the first one felt like a fluke. This one feels like it's on purpose.
do people not fucking remember how the last fucking time went? Do people not fucking remember what happened when that asshole had to give up the office the fucking first time? Do people not remember that he's a fucking convicted felon right now? The fucking meme has been going on all over the place, and it's true. Take the fucking are have you ever been convicted of a felony question off of every fucking job application because the fucking most important job in the country is now held by a fucking convicted felon.
The hilarity of that to me was that all over, uh, when I was back in Houston in like the weeks leading up to this, all of the ads on TV were Republican ads crying about judges being soft on crime. And then they elect a fucking 37-time convicted felon who should have been indicted for treason, amongst other things. It is disgusting to live in this country right now as a person with a, a brain and a shred of empathy for humanity.
I'm I don't even fucking know what to say anymore. I I spent most of the day, you know, in denial, you know. I went to sleep early last night out of denial. I I literally would not even go online for hours just out of fucking denial because I'm like, if I don't go online and if I don't watch the news, then it didn't fucking happen. And obviously that's not the case. Obviously, you know, it fucking happened either way. And, you know, somebody very important to me this morning, and I'm not gonna name names. I'm just, if you're listening to this, you know who the fuck you are. This morning, I messaged somebody very important to me, and I said to them my fears about, you know, pretty much leaving this state at all and going anywhere south of Massachusetts. And instead of any degree of empathy, any degree of sympathy, what I got was, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. Fuck you.
Tells you all you need to
Fuck
know, doesn't it?
you. What was that?
Tells you all you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like, fuck you. And I hope you're fucking happy, because here's a fucking spoiler alert. You're not fucking rich. So all these fucking tax cuts, these fucking, record-breaking tax cuts that, by the way, went to the fucking wealthy the first time. But you're too fucking stupid to fucking open up a newspaper or turn on a fucking TV and fucking see that. And said it's, oh, he fucking cut taxes. Yeah, he fucking cut taxes for people who make as much money as he does. He cut the fucking estate tax for people who made fucking seven figures. Hey, dipshit, you don't fucking make seven figures.
I got
Like, oh, gas prices went down. You know why fucking gas prices went down? There was a fucking pandemic. The gas prices went down because nobody was driving anywhere. God.
the
Like, do you people not have a fucking brain? Obviously, the answer is no. Obviously, the answer is fucking no. And I'm sorry that poor people are the fucking problem with this country to the fucking. I, ah, I want to fucking punch something right now, but I also don't want to break anything that I own. Go ahead.
uh, I have nothing useful to add. We've I don't know. Everybody knows. Look, there's nothing. There's no fucking silver lining to this. I'm just in terms of like, it just kind of it simplifies things going forward because it tells you all you need to know about some people. Because look, at this point, after everything that we've been through since 2016, after this point, if you still voted for him, you are either just too stupid to be trusted to make any kind of decision about anything, or you are just maliciously trying to fuck shit up for everybody because you're a bad person. Nobody voted for him, did it for a good reason.
72 million people and counting at the moment voted for that asshole. And here's a big part of the problem, and I haven't watched the fucking news since last night. So maybe someone has brought this up. Joe Biden had almost 80 million votes. He had to have the all-time highest vote total in order to win. Trump in 2020 had around 73 million votes. So you might notice Trump has about the same number of votes this year that he did in 2020. Kamala Harris has at the moment 67 million votes, meaning there's about 12 to 13 million people who voted for Biden last time who just didn't vote. So in many ways, it's not even fucking like new people who are suddenly this way. It's the same fucking people who voted for him in 2016 and 2020, but it's a fucking, 12 million people from fucking 2020 who are like, oh no, whatever. It worked last time, didn't it?
Yeah, you're right. And it's fucking, I don't know. I don't want to. As I often do to avoid the pain of reality, I've slipped into the political theory side of it some on Twitter today, but I don't want to. I don't want to go into that now because it doesn't matter today. It might matter tomorrow. It'll matter next year. It'll matter next month. It'll matter. It might start mattering next week, but today it doesn't fucking matter. Today, what matters is today. What matters is that shit's fucked, and but we got to get through today, right? But we'll worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Well, let's talk about some wrestling.
Hey,
Go
this
Smoky Mountain Wrestling, episode 80, August 7th, 1993. Let's go to the intro with Caudle and Dutch.
Hi, wrestling fans. Welcome to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Professional wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. I'm Bob Caudle along with Dr. Dirty Dutch Mantell, and we got another great hour in store for all you wrestling fans this week. We got a lot of action to send your way. You're going to see the Armstrongs, the Army in action today. Plus, Dutch, we're going to take a look at a training film to see just how that Army trains. The Bruise Brothers are going to be in action. Are they going to answer the challenge that the Rock and Roll Express threw out to them? That's something we hope to learn. We're going to hear from Cornette's Criminals, from Kiss Candido, and also the Big Boss Man. All of that and more during this hour. Big main event, our Smoky Mountain title match, Brian Lee against Tim Horner. What about down and dirty?
Okay, my special guest today on Down and Dirty with Dutch is a man who hasn't made a lot of appearances on Down and Dirty, and we're talking about the Bullet. Bob Armstrong will be on Down and Dirty with Dutch today, and I'm going to ask him about his unprecedented, unheard of offer and statement that he made last week.
It sure was that, Dutch. Now, let's see, what about our television title match? Or beat the champ?
Right here, I threw these names this week. Everybody knows I am a doctor. I'm using my doctor's cap right here to draw names.
I thought that was a mortarboard or something.
It's not very nice. This means a lot to me. But anyway, the man who's going to face the Dirty White Boy today for $1,000 and the title of Beat the Champ is none other than Chris Comet will face the Dirty White Boy today on the Beat the Champ contest.
All right, fans, there you have it. That and a lot more action to come your way. Stay right with us. Let's go to the ring.
I'll be honest, when they started talking about what's happening this week, I'm like, oh, fuck, did I queue up the wrong show? Because I did not remember the Armstrongs wrestling on this show, even though they're on the opener. So when he's like, oh, the Armstrongs are in action, I'm like, oh, fuck. But yeah, so the Armstrongs are training at, let's just spoil things for you. Nothing in the ring this week means a lick of difference.
No,
The fucking
but
promos on this show are just outstanding.
as gloomy as we have been, as gloomy as we were from the moment the show started, like this is actually a fantastic episode of TV here.
It really is. And I mean, we're gonna have Primetime Brian Lee versus Tim Horner for the Smoky Mountain title, but we're also gonna have the Armstrongs, the Bruise Brothers, Bullet Bob is here, and because it's time for a jobber to challenge it, Chris Comet's gonna get a shot at the Beat the Champ TV title against Dirty White Boy. I haven't even kept track of how many title defenses White Boy has had, and I don't even think they mention it, do they?
I don't remember. I think it's 4. I think this is 4.
Honestly, it might be 2. Like
Hold on,
he
because
won.
I can't actually look. I didn't want to lean over and push a button on my screen. Give me 1 second. I will look.
No problem. I can do it too
Okay,
here.
this was 3.
Okay.
This
I
is
remember
3.
he won the title as
The
Damn
Mighty
Yankee
Yankee.
or Mighty Yankey
The
or
Mighty
whatever, and
Yankee.
then he retained the title, and he didn't he fucking wrestle Bobby Blaze one week too?
So the first one was the underdog,
Yeah, that's right.
and then it was he actually lost by disqualification to Steve Armstrong. But apparently, anything that isn't a direct victory counts as retaining the titles. So
Correct.
this was number
He,
3.
if you are not pinned or submitted, you retain the TV title, which, as we point out every week, why wouldn't he just punch the referee when the bell rang?
Yeah.
But, oh well. We get our first match, which is the aforementioned Scott and Steve Armstrong versus a tag team for the new millennium, Juicy Johnny and Joe Kazana. Now,
Oh my god.
Juicy Johnny is best known as a guy who pisses on a woman while he gets shit on. And I'm pretty sure Urban Dictionary was not a thing in 1993, but you cannot tell me that Dutch and Caudle did not know what they were saying at some points during this match. Um, it was so hard to not laugh when Caudle saying we get our first look at Juicy Johnny. Um, and I I was crying in joy while watching this match while also being so unbelievably angry, which is just an outstanding combination. And then I began writing the sentence, Juicy Johnny was all over Scott Armstrong when Dutch gave us the line of the century, and I have it queued up here. Let's go to Dutch.
And I don't know what that name Juicy Johnny means, but he could get mushed here or squashed, however you want to put it.
Juicy Johnny could get mushed or squished.
I got the first part of that, and I guess I was so amused by the first part that the second part didn't even register. Because I wrote down, I don't know what Juicy Johnny means, and then I wrote, oh, Dutch. And I didn't even catch that. Oh my God. Smushed and
Oh God.
squashed. I
Yes.
believe that's called a waffle stomp. I can't believe I just
Oh
said that on the
Lord.
air.
If anybody suddenly starts listening to this show because of the first 20 minutes, we're going to spend the next 20 minutes trying to convince you to not listen to this show anymore, I guess.
It's the first time ever that I've been tempted to say edit that out. I'm ashamed of
Um,
myself.
yeah. If you if you want to hear the entire 12 minutes, actually it wasn't even 12 minutes, 12 minutes was with the match. If you want to hear the entire 6 minutes that we did last week on Juicy Johnny, I clipped it and posted it on YouTube. Go check it out. And it's it's a masterpiece. And Scott pinned Juicy Johnny after a double team missile drop kick. Then we get a
I'm just. Oh, go ahead.
it's promo time.
Yes.
So Jim
Oh
Cornette and Heavenly
yes. This
Bodies. I'm
promo.
sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Oh my. No, this fucking promo. It's amazing. All right, play it.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Jim Cornette and the Heavenly Bodies, and it's more Jim Cornette than the Heavenly Bodies.
All right, fans, with us right now, of course, Jim Cornette and the Heavenly Bodies, Tom Pritchard.
You know what really amazes me is a guy who used to be the commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling still has these guys in his back pocket. You can tell it through when you go out and you get some criminal like the big boss man and you lock him inside a cage with us. It just goes to show you what kind of people you really do have here in Smoky Mountain. But no matter which way you go, no matter how you cut it, we still got all the beef and we still got all the brains on our side, man.
Hey, the word is around, and I hear that you're getting a little bit nervous, Jim Cornette.
Oh, you wouldn't be nervous? Smoky Mountain Wrestling is sanctioning murder with a money-back guarantee, and you wouldn't be nervous if the guy was coming after you? He's a homicidal psychopath, and he wants to kill me. And you talk about criminals. They're calling us Cornette's criminals, putting us in a cage and raging in a cage, putting me in a lumberjack match like one of those movies from the Old West. I'm surprised they don't want leather thongs and have a knife in the head. I shouldn't say anything. But I got a little report here on you, Bob Armstrong. I know why Bob Armstrong knows so much about criminals. Because you see, I did a little genealogical survey on the Armstrong family. I called those Mormons up there in Salt Lake City, and I got a little report. Now, the first thing I found out about the Armstrong family, the family tree doesn't branch. Did you realize that? That's the first thing right there. There's no truth to the rumor whatsoever that Bob Armstrong's mother and father were named Adam and Eve. That was actually his younger sister and brother. Now, Bob Armstrong has a lot of famous people in his lineage. For example, right here, Benedict Armstrong in the Revolutionary War, he turned on so many people, he screwed himself into the ground, and they used his face for a doorstop. Now, there was General George Armstrong, back in the Old West. He was the victim of an Indian massacre. He went out one day on patrol, and a squaw doing laundry beat him to death with a wet towel. And then, oh, shut up. And then his grandfather, Alphonse Scarface Armstrong, who wanted to corner the market on bootleg whiskey during Prohibition. The only thing is he got it wrong. He wasn't supposed to drink it. He was supposed to sell it. And there was another noted Armstrong, Otis Campbell Armstrong, who was such a noted town drunk all over the South. He traveled the country, hiring out to various cities to be their town drunk, until one day he burnt next to an open flame and started a Chicago fire. Now, I got some more. You talk about the Armstrong family, tramps and thieves. A lot of people think Bob Armstrong's related to Neil Armstrong, the first man to set foot on the moon. He's actually related to Buford Armstrong, the first man to set foot in a Georgia State reformatory. Now, Bob's father, he was the only Armstrong ever to work for a living. As a matter of fact, he ran the biggest shoe store in the state of Georgia. And to this day, whenever people think about black loafers, they think about Bob Armstrong's old man. And one more thing, the women in the Armstrong family, for example, Bob's great-grandmother, Bertha, she charged the Light Brigade. His mother's well-known in the linen business. She's been in more laps than a napkin. And also, Bob has a daughter. Not too many people realize this, very successful in school. She was voted most likely to conceive. Let me tell you something, Bob Armstrong. You're a filthy, stinking redneck. I hate your family. I hate everything about you. They're nothing but thieves, cutthroats, backstabbers, murderers, criminals, and low-life, stinking, unemployed bums. And I got the proof. And I'll tell you something else I'm going to prove. Fire on the mountain. That rage in the cage ain't going to go the way you think. And as for the K-Town Showdown, I'm working on my options, man, because I am worried. You got a lot of money riding on hospitalizing me. I ain't going to let it happen one way or another. Neither are the bodies, neither are the bruises, and maybe neither will the big boss man. If I can just get 10 minutes of his time before August the 20th, I'm out of here.
Hey, no wonder he's nervous and he's...
All right. So Dr. Tom cut a perfectly acceptable promo. There was
Okay,
absolutely nothing wrong with Dr. Tom's promo. Wouldn't
absolutely.
you
And by
agree?
the way, yeah, I agree. And I just want to say, just to make fun of myself for a minute, I do
Hmm.
not know how I did not realize until it was pointed out to me like last week that Dr. Tom's promo style is a direct ripoff of Roddy Piper.
We talked about that last week, and for some reason we didn't bring it up on the show, but um, I remember the first Heavenly Bodies promo on this show. I'm like, how did I never notice what a complete rip-off of Roddy Piper that Dr. Tom was? Or he's just doing a blatant Roddy Piper impression during his promos.
You want to know something that was weird? So I mentioned on the Oh My God cast that we have not recorded yet. We watched TWA Autumn Armageddon '90, and it had Cactus Jacking as Eddie Gilbert, and Cactus did a promo, and Mick Foley's like one of the greatest promo guys of all time.
Wait, I better
He
sit down for that.
it was just so weird because it did not sound like Cactus Jack at all. And my first thought was, okay, Mick grew up in like the New York territory. Like that was a superstar Billy Graham cadence. And then I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, oh my God, that was the Dude Love voice. And it was so bizarre that like he had not developed the character of Cactus Jack to the point that like he was doing Cactus Jack promos as Dude Love. It was just so bizarre as a little historical curiosity.
Um, I, I that was a really nice touch, and it's like I'm not even going to mock you for saying, as we talked about it on the Oh My God cast, which we haven't recorded yet, because I'll be honest, that made me laugh when you said that.
You know what I mean?
Um, what was that?
You know what I meant.
I know.
As I
So
intend, as I wrote down to talk about on the show that I will record at some point.
so Jim Cornette, he's always
Oh
been
my
the
God.
king of the he's always been the king of the one-liners. But like this one, like this was just a promo of one-liners. This was just he had them written down and just reading off from the top of the list to the bottom of the list with just one great line after another. Um, so I liked the first one he said I liked. It was the Smoky Mountain is sanctioning murder with a money back guarantee. I'm like, that's a tremendous line. And I watched this after, well, I think I was like 10 minutes behind you. And you were telling me, oh man, Cornette cut a great promo. I'm like, oh, shocking, that Jim Cornette cut a great promo. But this was not the usual Jim Cornette great promo because
No,
it was
this
a
was
great Jim Cornette
exceptional.
promo.
It,
Yeah.
it was it was an all timer Jim Cornette promo.
Well, then he's like, "Oh, the Armstrong family tree doesn't branch." I'm like, "Okay, he's just gonna read off a bunch of Jeff Foxworthy jokes now." I'm like, nope. Jeff Foxworthy was watching this and taking notes. Um, Adam and Eve were not related to or I guess weren't Bullet Bob's parents. They were his
They were his
younger brother
brother
and
and sister.
sister. General
Okay.
George Armstrong was beaten to
Oh, I
death by a
fucking died.
squaw with a wet
Oh,
towel.
I fucking died at George Armstrong. Oh my god.
I,
Oh, we
th- th-
okay.
and then he's
So
like, I then marked out for Bob's father ran the biggest shoe store in Georgia, and whenever people think of black loafers, they think of Bob's dad.
it's funny. I didn't even catch that the first time because I was laughing so hard. I didn't catch it until we listened back to it just now. Oh my god. Okay. We
I'm
need
like,
we need to write
I
in we need to write into the drive-through because I need to know every detail about the conception of this promo. Because this promo was too thorough. This was not an off-the-cuff promo. He fucking thought about this in the car for hours. He might have wrote some shit down. Holy, I just need to know how this promo came to be because it's fucking incredible.
do they even still uh take questions on the drive-through? I don't even know. Or are they
I,
just
I
reviewing
Well,
modern?
the last I knew, that was the point of the drive-through, the experiences for the TV reviews. Although there is some, I haven't listened to it in a long time. I stopped
Yeah.
a while ago. But yeah, as far as I know, they still do. See, I wish. Here's what I wish. I wish that somebody would do a supercut of like all the Cornette podcast stuff with just taking out his critiques of modern wrestling. Because number one, I want to hear him rant about politics, and I want to hear him talk about old wrestling. But that's it.
I was gonna say they do that. It's when they put a 3 hour version of just him reading ad copy for his ads on the show. But yeah, I'm just going through his YouTube page and just looking at the clips, and everything that I'm going through so far is all just modern day wrestling. Um, I mean, some of it's not entirely, wrestling, but it's all modern day, related stuff. Like talking about TKO purchasing the Professional Bull Riders Tour. It's like, but yeah, even the drive-through. It's like the drive-through. He's talking about, Dynamite, um, and last week's Raw and Spy Pens.
Dude,
Actually, that was the experience. He talked about Spy Pens. Yeah.
I I started listening to Cornette's podcast like when it was on MLW radio, like when it was still Alice Radley. I was listening back then. It was
Can,
like one of the greatest wrestling podcasts of all time until the existence of AEW ruined it.
can I just say, uh, I know what happened with Cornette and Alice Radley, but I loved listening to Alice Radley. She had like the perfect radio voice. She was like so soothing to listen to. It's like, you know, I would go listen to Alice Radley right now if I had trouble falling asleep because like I feel like I'd be relaxed after listening to her.
Yeah, she'd have a great voice. And I like Alice. I actually connected with her a bit briefly a couple of years ago when I I don't even know. There was a brief time that I was kind of Twitter famous on a very specific nerd corner of Twitter, and I had some conversations with her around that time. Yeah,
Nerds,
I like
nerds,
Alice.
nerds, 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 nerds.
Okay,
But by the way, I forgot to mention one line that I love too. That Bullet Bob's daughter was voted most likely to conceive in school. Made
this
even
was
better, by the way, that they didn't even say what school it was. So it's like, you're like you assume high school, but it's like, hey, it's the South, and who knows, right?
yeah. Sorry, I disappeared for half a second because my phone started ringing, and then I was making sure everything was back to normal.
I was talking about the line about Bullet Bob's daughter being most likely to conceive, and how they didn't mention what school it was that she was voted this in, whether it was high school, middle school, etc. And I'm like, well, it is the South after all.
Grad school, you
Um,
would hope, but
yeah.
I doubt it.
They do continue to push, like, and I don't know, I don't think they're pushing it hard enough, at least yet. I mean, next week I guess is the go home show, but they're not pushing it hard enough that Cornette has a history with Big Bubba Rogers slash the Big Boss Man. It's like,
Yeah,
if you know, you know. But in 1993, there are so many new wrestling fans and so many people who stopped watching wrestling in 1988 and weren't watching it at this point that you can't just assume that everyone watching knows that Big Boss Man used to be Jim Cornette's bodyguard. But they are pushing that Cornette's trying to get in touch with him.
yeah, they like you're right. They've had both weeks. They had a line mentioning it, but yeah, they did. You'd have to know. And I don't know. Did they think that I don't know these people in East Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky had been watching WCW 6 years earlier?
And I mean, I'm sure that there were people in the crowd who knew this, like no doubt. But I mean, at the same time, in 1993, I was a pretty big wrestling fan. And I mean, I wasn't in, the Smoky Mountains, but I was a pretty big wrestling fan in 1993, and I would have had no fucking idea.
Okay,
Because, like,
I
you know,
actually have a really good recent example to demonstrate this. Okay,
ooh,
if you have ever listened to this podcast, you know I'm a fucking wrestling nerd. Like I spend most of my free time consuming information or thinking about or watching wrestling. What was the last AEW pay per view? Wrestle Dream when they
I was,
had
I was gonna say Full Gear, but that's the next one.
when they had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn taking on MXM Collection, and MXM were going to have somebody special there. And then they showed backstage, and it was Rico Constantino. And I was like, oh, cool, Rico Constantino. I completely get it. It was, it was the guy who was like a kind of gay esque model type character obsessed with image and looks. That makes perfect sense for MSM Collection to bring in. You know what I did not even think about until Excalibur mentioned it? That Rico used to manage Billy Gunn.
Yeah. See, I thought I told you that, but yeah, but yeah, at least somebody did. At least Excalibur did. But yeah, it, I that I think like that was such a niche thing too, because it's like how many people these days really remember Billy and Chuck? Like that shit was 22 years ago.
Yeah, and that's something that I don't know, I think we might not think about enough because we've been wrestling nerds for decades at this point.
Mm,
Is that if you look historically, okay, there have been a few distinct boom periods in wrestling. Anytime there has been a boom, it was not because of past fans coming back. It was because of creating a whole new group of fans. There is a
yep.
lot of turnover in fandom over, especially the years now. Even then, probably there's a lot of people.
Do you know how, like, when I'm on dating sites and I'm talking to somebody, someone's like, "Oh, what do you like?" And I'll mention that I'm a wrestling fan. Without fail, they will always say, "Oh, I was a huge fan when Austin and The Rock were wrestling." Every
Yeah,
single time. They don't say, "Oh, I came back, when, 5 years ago when WWE got $1 billion from Fox." It's like, no, like I know one person who became a fan during the Fox era, and he wasn't a fan before the Fox era, you know?
yeah. It I don't know. It's all that now. Like when I was a kid, I distinctly remember that, like, that was a boom period. The time my first few years as a wrestling fan, and I would talk to people. I would just bring up wrestling to people, And it was, growing up in, the South Arkansas, North Louisiana area, they'd go, "Oh, Junkyard Dog," because that was the wrestling that they remembered. That was the wrestling from the generation before that they cared about when they were fans. But the people who were fans in 1999 weren't like the same people that had been fans in 1986 or in Mid South 1983, 84.
By the way, as we're closing in on an hour into this show, um, might as well go to like the third thing on the show, which is a Big Boss Man promo. Let's go to the Big Boss Man.
A rainy day in Georgia. The big boss man, law, order, and justice. I want you to take a good long look at that wall and that razor wire out here in this exercise yard. This is a place where there's a lot of heartache, a lot of sorrow. Well, we have what we call the rage in the cage. Coming down, 20 by 20. 5 men against 5 men. Cornette's criminals versus Armstrong's army. There's got to be a man that can handle all this madness, all this wildness. And that is the big boss man, the keeper of the key. I'm going to make sure, without a doubt in anybody's mind, that everything's fair and square, that every man gets their chance to prove what they got to prove. Who's a man and who's not, plain and simple. All my life, I've tried to walk the straight and narrow. My mama and daddy always told me, do what's right, and that way you'll walk through life knowing that you're doing what's right. Well, Kevin Sullivan, you've been walking. You've been stepping on people, trying to ruin lives long enough. Here in this rainy day in Georgia, I'm going to make it plain and clear and simple to you, Kevin Sullivan. You're going to have to deal with a big boss man, and it's not going to be pleasant, because the crimes have been committed, and you got to pay, punk. Law, order, and justice.
So, is it really fair to have a man who stands for law, order, and justice be the referee of a match where one of the teams are called the criminals? I feel like you're just leading to obvious bias here.
Well, we've established that Mark Lawrence is on the fictional Smoky Mountain board that we've conceived. So clearly, he is using his Von Erich's influence to influence the appointment of biased officials.
Indeed, indeed. But yeah, other than that, like, hey, that was a good Big Boss Man promo. You know,
Okay,
it made the point.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going to be greatly overshadowed on this show. But yeah.
Okay, weird question. Do you think he recorded that promo before he went to Japan or after he got back?
Mm, when was he in Japan?
Late July. I guess for most of July, probably.
I think after, just because when did this deal with Cornette and the WWF come about? Because like that felt like, and I mean the way Corny described it, it felt like a very last minute kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I mean, and he's never mentioned because Bossman was still technically in the WWF at this point, even though he wasn't really being used. Um, so it's like he doesn't really mention, going to them before that to ever whatchamacallit, use anybody.
Well, that makes sense. That's one of the things that came in late that they had to make room for by snipping off entrances and post-match announcements and stuff.
Unfortunately, Tim Horner's entrance had to get cut this week, so we could have the Big Boss Man. I think that's a win.
That's not even the most frustrating thing that happened there, but we'll talk about that when we get to
I
it.
lost you there for a second. What was that?
So that's not even the most frustrating thing that happened there, but we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Indeed. Beat the Champ TV champion Dirty White Boy versus Chris Comet. Bobby Blaze joined the commentary desk. Dirty White Boy won with the Buck Snort Blaster. And it was to the point where they weren't even paying attention to this match until the match was over.
I honestly, I wasn't either.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing of a match.
All right, so let's go to the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, Chris Candido. And you remember last week, Tim Horner brought out a baby bottle and diapers and threatened to use them on Chris Candido. Let's go to Candido now, who's got a rebuttal.
All right, fans, with me right now, here's Chris Candido. Chris, last week, Tim Horner, he brought out a baby bottle full of milk and some Pampers.
Bob Cottle, when you open up this show every week, what do you say? Wrestling the way you like it. Well, I don't like wrestling talking about Pampers or about baby bottles. I'm the world champion. I'm a wrestler, that's what I do. Hey, shut up! I don't talk about bottles or Pampers or nothing like that. So now Smoky Mountain Wrestling thinks it's some kind of real wrestling organization in the WWA, a real wrestling organization based in a real part of the country, New Jersey. You never hear nothing about bottles or Pampers or anything ridiculous like that. So Tim Horner, I'll take these matches because I know there is no way I'm going to suck on a bottle. There's no way I'm going to wear a diaper. I'll tell you what, my personal friend, Dennis Carluzzo, the president of the entire World Wrestling Alliance, is going to be called Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He might even come down here himself and have something to say about this.
All right, fans, he has accepted the challenges of Tim Horner and those matches we're going to be seeing. All right, we're going to hear from Down and Dirty with Dutch Mantell when we come back right after this.
This is such a great underneath gimmick. Like this whole, I'm from a real state. I'm from New Jersey. We don't do these things in New Jersey. And it's just fantastic. Like, no, Candido's not going to be the world champion, or I guess he is the world champion, but you know what I mean. He's not going to be, the touring world champion in a serious manner at this point. He's in a perfectly good opening match role right now, and it's a really fun angle he's got going with Horner here, especially when we don't have to hear Horner talk. That usually makes it for the best. And I like I'm just waiting for his good friend WWE President Dennis Coralluzzo to show up one day.
Oh God, is Dennis Corleone going to come to East Tennessee?
I'm pretty sure he's on the show at some point. Like I don't know if he actually goes to Tennessee, but I'm pretty sure he does a tape promo at some point.
Yeah. As
By the
long
way, I keep forgetting to mention the schedule for the next 2 weeks. So next week is our normal episode 81 from August 14th. But then the next week we're doing Fire on the Mountain. It's the 2 hour tape, the 2 hour commercial tape that Smoky Mountain put out for Fire on the Mountain, and they also have the Cornette Bullet Bob cage match. So we're going to be watching that in 2 weeks. Now, what made me think about this was, I was looking at the results, and I'm like, what is episode 82? Because episode 81 is the continuation of this, and they claim that they were not going to air any matches from either Fire on the Mountain or K-Town Showdown. But then when I looked, the tapings go from episode 81 to episode 83. So somebody lied. So we're still gonna do Fire on the Mountain in 2 weeks. And I'm gonna skim through episode 82 to see if there's anything else we need to talk about. But by and large, that'll probably be the official episode 82.
you're very lucky I had the presence of mind. I guess I could have found it on YouTube anyway, but I just being out of town at the moment, I went through and like downloaded stuff that I knew I needed to watch or might want to watch, just in case I ended up being gone for like I didn't know how long I was going to be gone when I left. But anyway, I'm glad I took the time to download the shows for next week because I am going to be here until actually we are leaving tomorrow to go to Dallas for the thing we had to be in Dallas for, and then we're going to come back Sunday for the service, and then stay like another couple of days. But yeah,
You're just crisscrossing the shittiest parts of this country, aren't you?
no fucking kidding, no fucking kidding. Tell me about it. I gotta go. Like, I just I have to assume that everybody I meet is a piece of shit until explicitly proven otherwise. Now,
It's actually amazing because if I just told people, oh yeah, I do a pro wrestling podcast with a guy with a cisgender straight white male from Texas, they wonder what the fuck is wrong with me. Oh yeah, a cisgender straight white male from Texas who grew up in Arkansas. You do not fit the trope. You do not of what people are expecting from that description.
I've always said I put the red in red.
I lost you for a second. You put the red in what?
The red in redneck. Red being
Uh,
a euphemism for very leftist politics.
See, I thought you were a communist. I was gonna have to be worried that you were gonna hit me with a sack of wheat. So, as we pass the 1 hour mark of this show, we're gonna theoretically go to Down and Dirty with Dutch. But before we go to Down and Dirty with Dutch, we're gonna go to a well, we broke it up into two parts. A two-part video package of Bullet Bob training for his not just training for his match with Jim Cornette, but training for Rage in the Cage with the Armstrongs and the Criminals. Let's go to that right now. And like I said, it's two parts, so we'll come back halfway through.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Dutch Mantell, and you're not. I have a piece of videotape, a very interesting piece, before I call my special guest in here, Bullet Bob Armstrong. But let's look at an Armstrong training film taped somewhere in the jungles of South America. Let's watch this.
All right, men, dress right. At ease. Gentlemen, we're out here for a purpose, and we know what that is. This is our last chance at Cornette and his criminals. We're going to show them what it means to survive. We've got to be ready for anything. We've got to expect the unexpected, and that's why we're here today. Now get down in the push-up position. On my command, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, to your feet. Attention. Okay, gentlemen, our next exercise will be in a wooded area. In case Cornette decides to go into the crowd or concession stand, we'll be ready. Fire on the Mountain 93, Rage in the Cage 2, no matter where you look, Jimmy Cornette. Maybe if you look in the rafters, you'll find another one of Armstrong's army, because everywhere you look, that's where exactly we're going to be. Fire on the Mountain 93, and Cornette, you won't know where we're coming from. For instance, you might see Ricky Morton jump at you from behind the ring post. You might even look a little further, and Steve Armstrong may be hiding behind the concession stand. And if you look a little farther to your right, you may find Robert Gibson waiting on the heavenly bodies. And then again, we have the man, Scott Armstrong, super kick. He'll be right there with us. Freedom, Hall, Fire on the Mountain 93, and Cornette, the last face you'll see is this one.
This is just the first half of it. This is so fucking corny. It's amazing.
Even to the good part yet.
I'm just like frozen at Bullet Bob's face.
Oh, it
So,
gets so much. Like, this is already amazing, and we're not even to the good part yet. Holy shit.
yes. So
Do,
we
did we
go to
mention they
somewhere.
are wearing? I'm sorry. Did we mention they are wearing fucking war paint? I mean, okay, Steve and Scott have a little bit of paint on. Fucking Ricky and Robert have full on fucking Native American war paint on. It's amazing.
Yes. So Bullet Bob flew them all to South America, apparently, to the jungles of South America for this training montage. Um, and we see Steve Armstrong hiding in a tree at one point. And honestly, when they were panning up, I thought it was going to be the Bullet standing up in the tree, but it's probably for the best that it wasn't Bullet Bob up there. But and then everyone's hiding behind something. Everyone's hiding behind a tree except for Ricky, who's hiding behind a bush, which was just fantastic. Um, then he makes a face at the camera. He makes a face when you hear him say,
Oh,
"This is the last thing you're gonna see, Jim Cornette." He just gives it the best. I don't know how to even to explain this.
it was an attempt at a snarl.
Yes. And
Imagine
then
Ricky Morton wearing face
mhm,
paint trying to snarl
from behind a bush.
from behind the bush. Oh,
You, and
how?
this is the training for their match. They're training for the match by donning face paint and snarling behind a bush and behind
Okay,
trees.
we have to look. Is this on YouTube, like as its own clip? Because I don't know how this isn't one of those clips that like everybody has seen.
If not, it's going to be
Uh,
because you know, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to clipping the good shit out of this show and posting it on YouTube. This is going to be one of those things that I'm definitely going to clip and put up there.
it's so fucking outstanding. Holy. Oh, do it so you can put it in the notes of the podcast.
And I'm doing a quick YouTube search, and there is nothing coming up anyway, which is just this is a fucking travesty, to be honest.
Oh god, okay. We'll have to get that up and we'll try to get it out into the community because this needs to be seen by
Yeah.
everybody.
So fast forward a minute because we get a music video of each of the baby faces making faces at the camera, plus clips of Bullet Bob beating up Jim Cornette. And then we come back for the last half of this promo, which segues into Down and Dirty with Dutch. And yeah, so let's go to Bullet Bob right now.
You know, the time has finally come, Cornette. No longer will you be the king of cockiness, brother. You will be the queen of caca, because in the Rage in the Cage 93 at Freedom Hall, your reign will come to an end. I got an army behind me, and we've been through maneuvers. We've sweated blood. We can go in the ditches, in the trenches, any kind of warfare you want. We are ready for it, brother, because we trained hard. I got the Armstrong boys, my blood, and I got some extra reinforcement, the Rock and Roll Express. And this time I won't be by myself. And the good thing, the keeper of the key to the cage, the big boss man, he's big enough, bad enough, got enough of the right stuff to see that nobody gets out of that cage. And when all your criminals get handcuffed, baby, you're going to be looking at the bullet, brother, and I ain't going to be looking too good because I'm going to be mad. They say don't get mad, get even. Well, hell, I got mad and I'm going to get even anyway. So we'll see you at Freedom Hall. All that rabbit blood in you ain't going to do you no good, brother, because where you going to run? Into the big boss man, bounce back to me, and I'll shove your nose through that cage. We ready, boys? Let's get ready. It's wartime. Let's do it. Cornette, 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 Cornette.
Okay, so to end that segment, he cuts that quick little promo. Don't get mad, get even. And then, like, first of all four fellow baby faces, like I don't know where the hell they really were, but suddenly they appear in a line behind Bullet Bob as he's cutting this promo. And then it ends with them stepping aside and us seeing a picture of Jim Cornette taped to a tree. And Bullet Bob takes his baseball bat and wallops at this picture. It falls to the ground, and he just keeps hitting the picture when it hits the ground.
I
I'm
think Bullet
already
Bob is
scared
gonna.
for it.
I
It's
think
been
Bullet Bob is gonna
31
kill Jim
years, and
Cornette.
I'm scared for Jim Cornette's life.
Oh Lord, fucking phenomenal.
And if that's not good enough, we're going to now go to Down and Dirty with Dutch with Bullet Bob. Let's go to Dutch right now.
Well, you've seen the training film. I am now joined on the Down and Dirty set right here by Bullet Bob Armstrong, the general of Armstrong's army, and by his own words, he makes General Schwarzkopf look like a wimp. Now, Mr. Armstrong, of course, you know I haven't always agreed with everything you've said, but I'm not going to tell the people the history of what's going on, because if they watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling, they know what's going on. What I want to talk about right now is the K-Town Showdown. You have made an offer, a challenge that to me is unheard of in professional wrestling. To me, it is bizarre. And it says that if you don't put Jim Cornette in the hospital, the same hospital they sent you to, if you don't take him out in the same ambulance that you went out in, you will refund everybody's money that came that night, and you will also retire from professional wrestling. Did I hear you correctly?
You heard me exactly right, and I'm dead serious about it, brother. If I don't beat that sissy britches, panty waist sack of Scandinavian snake feces right in the middle of that ring, 1, 2, 3, I'll give every man, woman, and child their money back with pleasure, and I'll never wrestle again. But I owe that man. I've healed up, I feel good. Now, his mama fed him lobster and caviar. Me and my boys grew up on grits and greens, and we didn't do too bad, did we? As a matter of fact, I'd like to take this time right now to tell Mr. Jim Cornette that he can kiss my grits. And furthermore, I think he ought to think long and hard. He better get him a Sears catalog and find him an outhouse where he'll be comfortable with his surroundings and think about what he's fell into. Now, if he'll look back, he's looking back family trees and family history. If he'll look back in the archives, he'll find that Bullet Bob was kicking butts in the Smoky Mountains years ago. I mean, I was kicking butts while he was still sucking his mama's pacifier. I'm still kicking and he still sucks. And I'll tell you this, Dirty Dutch, my word is my bond. Sandy Scott's got a briefcase full of money, and I'll tell you what, K-Town Showdown, get ready. I ain't lying and I ain't flying, and you don't see no feathers on me, and I ain't come to play, brother. I'm gonna put you down. It's a lumberjack match. Ain't no way he can get away. He can run as far as he wants to, but about to the edge of that ring is as far as he gonna get, and somebody's gonna swat him in the head with one of them tennis rackets like he's done everybody else for the past 10 years. He is mine. Jimmy Cornette, you belong to me at the K-Town Showdown, and that's the night at the K-Town Showdown that I will put you down and shut that bugle mouth, fluttering lip of yours now and forever.
So, where's our Smoky Mountain time machine so we can go back in time and go to this show or these shows? Because I need to give them some money.
I was just thinking, like, I've seen the WWE Vault channel. Like, I actually sat there and watched a 2.5-hour supercut of the entire Crow Sting storyline from like the very beginning of the NWO coming into WCW, like until he got the title back in the rematch with Hogan a Super Brawl. And I was just thinking, number one, like how long the supercut would be if we just did the entire Jim Cornette Bob Armstrong feud, but also just how amazing it would be.
It would be probably about 10 hours long, and it would just be like 9 hours of fantastic promos and an hour of some wacky matches, we'll say. Wacky is a good word to describe it. If I don't beat that sissy britches, panty-waisted, psycho-Scandinavian sack of snake feces, I know I said this earlier for one of Cornette's lines, but that might be the line of the year right there.
You know what the best part? I don't know if I should bring this up because it's kind of a spoiler, but then I don't know. It's a thing people know about. The payoff to this, or at least part of the payoff, is that it results in the morning of SummerSlam, Jim Cornette going on Regis and Kathy Lee in a fucking neck brace.
That is fantastic, you know. Hey, he's keeping kayfabe alive one way or the other.
Yes, yes, he is. We've got to when we get to that in a few weeks, we have got to we've got to watch that, talk about it, maybe play some of it.
Uh, Bobby Blaze and Larry Santo versus tag team champions Bruise Brothers with Jim Cornette. Good news this week. The Bruise Brothers did not get disqualified for kicking too much ass because
Because they didn't
Ricky and
have a
Robert
match.
came out to demand a title match. And
Yes, they did,
Bo-
and they didn't get one.
Bobby Blaze, yeah, Bobby Blaze, the former Beat the Champ TV champion, just walked off without even questioning it, which
Okay, I was almost pissed for the minute
almost.
before I really started thinking about it. The idea that they fucking gave Bobby Blaze this upset and they're kind of giving him a push and he's doing a program and like you've got him back doing job matches. What the fuck? But then it's almost worse that they just left like total bitches.
Yep. That is your future Smoky Mountain champion,
Jeez.
as I will continue to remind us every time they do something like this on the show. So Cornette says that there will not be a match, but the Harrises attacked anyway, and we had a beating. Hoddle screams for about 2 minutes that this is not a match. And despite that, Ron and/or Don accidentally hit Don and/or Ron, and one of them got pinned by Robert Gibson after a drop kick. And I don't just mean like he covered them and counted his own pin. I mean he gave him the drop kick, he covered him, and referee Mark Curtis dropped down and counted 1, 2, 3.
It was not Mark Curtis. It was the blonde one.
Oh, not Mark
I'm sorry.
Curtis.
I
Dropped
have to
down and
defend the
counted
good.
one, two,
I have to
three.
defend the good name of Mark Curtis here.
I apologize to the memory of Mark Curtis there for that one. But
They
yeah,
would they did the double drop kick and then they both pinned him and the fucking referee counted it.
now I have to question what the crowd thought because to the crowd last week, the Rock and Roll Express asked for a title match. This week, there was a match. There was a match that the Rock and Roll Express won, and these guys didn't have, the crowd didn't have the opportunity to have Bob Caudle scream at them that this is not a match. And they just saw, you know, Ricky and Robert pin one of the Harrises to theoretically win the championship.
Okay, I watched this really closely. And if you look the whole time, the referee is waving it off. And he never calls for the bell. At one point, I listened really close. There was one point it sounded like something might have been a bell, but I really don't think it was. And clearly, the whole time, visibly, the referee was waving it off. So if you were watching that, you have to think, well, this isn't a match. But then why the fuck did he count the fall?
Exactly. That was going to be my comeback to that one. But
I knew.
Yeah, that's so the Rock and Rolls now have made the Harrises look mortal, and we'll see how that evolves from here. But then, did you watch the entire 51-minute show, like commercials and all?
Yeah.
Did you see what they said about the whatever show it is that they're going to have the Clintons and the Armstrong musical review at?
Fire on the Mountain.
Yeah. Did you hear who else is going to be performing that night?
Oh, I don't remember. It said, I don't remember.
Tim Horner.
Oh, well,
They
I guess it was not. I guess if it's not on TV, Rick Rubin doesn't have to know about it.
um Were they purposely trying to keep fans from going to the show? Uh,
You think he?
so,
Oh, do you think he's saying shameless?
oh my God, that would be tremendous. Um, so I'm not gonna play it because like first of all, we've gone fucking an hour and a half at this point, and secondly, there's been a lot better promos to listen to, and there'll be another one later. But essentially, the Harris brothers cut a promo. Cornette screamed that there's no match, and then left Ron or Don to cut a promo, and then Don or Ron cut in, and they just screamed that no one does this to them, implying nobody beats them in a professional wrestling match.
Except for all the teams they get disqualified against.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they get disqualified a lot, but they never get pinned. Um,
We're gonna one of these days. I'm gonna go off on a rant about this fucking disqualification shit.
I'm shocked you haven't already.
I don't know how.
Uh,
It's just I haven't worked up a head of steam about it yet.
well, Tracy Smothers cut a promo about prima donna Brian Lee and Tammy Witch with a capital B. And if you've heard every Tracy Smothers promo that we've listened to, you've heard this one. And also this is key, he threatened to whoop Tammy's butt. Okay.
It's so funny. It's so funny that like sometimes I can tell we had the exact same thought process on these segments because I wrote he played all of the hits, prima donna Brian Lee, Fitch with a capital B, etc., and the South will rise again, even though that's not anything to do with this feud.
No. Because primetime Brian Lee from Orlando, I guess, doesn't represent the South. Well, even though he gets a jobber entrance for his title match, thunder rolls and the lightning strikes. Because, yes, Tim Horner is getting a shot at the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship against prima donna Brian Lee with Tammy Witch with a capital B in his corner. Um, the match was all right. Um, I honestly it wasn't anything to write home about. The finish saw Horner go for a middle rope crossbody, but Brian Lee ducked and Horner took out the referee. Horner slapped on the world's slowest natural bridge when Candido ran to the ring and gave Horner a top rope knee drop. Horner did something to Candido. I'm assuming he backdropped him over the top rope. It doesn't matter because we didn't see it. Because while that was happening, Tammy Witch gave Prima Donna the glove, and he used it to knock Horner the fuck out. The referee woke up, count one, counted two, and Tracy Smothers slid in and grabbed his hand to hold up from the 3 count, which somehow led to Brian Lee being disqualified. Because yeah, we have to have weird DQs on every show, I guess, this week. Smothers got the glove, but before he could use it, Tammy sprayed Tracy with her hairspray and got the glove back. Horner drop kicked primetime Brian Lee out of the ring, and Horner was declared the winner for some reason.
Did he not raise Brian Lee's hand?
No, he raised Horner's hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was stoned when I watched this. I completely misunderstood.
Yep.
And here's the thing. And here's the fucking problem. Because I listened really, really close, and they were all because they usually do try to announce what the result is to their credit. But the ring announcer started to announce the result, and then in the middle of it, we cut to local promos for fucking Duffield, Virginia.
So you won't be going to Duffield, Virginia?
Nah, fuck them. It's no Roncevert, West Virginia.
Roncevert. Oh my God. Okay. Did you look up Duffield, Virginia?
No.
Don't. I want you to guess what their population was in the 2020 census And we're gonna treat this like that game on The Price is Right, where, if you guess wrong, I'm gonna tell you higher or lower.
Duffield, West Virginia in 2020 census.
It's not West Virginia, it's Duffield, Virginia in
Duffield,
2020.
Virginia in the 2020 census.
Yes.
Is it over or under 1,000?
Under.
330.
Under.
God, 150.
Under.
65.
Over. I'll even tell you.
82.
73.
Oh my God. What was the population in 1993?
Let me see if it goes back. In 2000, there were 62 people, so it is going up. Um, it looks in 1990 it was 54. I don't know what the
Okay.
hell happened in 1980 because in 1960 it was 97, in 1970 it was 63, in 1980 it was 148. It went up 135% in 1980, and then it dropped 63.5% for 1990.
Okay. To be fair, and I think it was Jericho that probably said in his book that like some of these little towns that they go to, people that ain't been counted in those census would come out of the fucking mountains to watch wrestling. So they probably drew more people than that.
Yeah. It's considered part of the Kingsport, Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia metropolitan statistical area. So, I mean, it's not quite
Okay.
town in the middle of nowhere, but it's town in the middle of nowhere.
It's a hole in the road, what we call them down here.
By the way, Duffield, uh, August 28th in Duffield draws 300 people. They quadruple the population of the town that night.
Look, if y'all ain't never been to Appalachia or you ain't studied Appalachia, this is uh, some of these people. They'll scare off a census man.
So it's possible you're saying that there are 300 people there, but the people of the census were too scared to actually count.
Entirely possible, 100%. Either that or they couldn't find them. They're somewhere
Well,
out in the fucking woods.
let's go to Bob Caudle, who's standing by with prima donna Brian Lee and Tammy Fitch to close our Smoky Mountain show this week.
Is with us right now, ringside, Tammy Fitch, primetime Brian Lee. And again, we saw Brian Lee with that black glove, the glove that he has used in so many of the matches against Tracy Smothers. And again, Tammy Fitch, you came in with, you sprayed something, mace or something right into the eye.
What do you expect me to do when Tracy Smothers turned around? He's a woman beater. He tried to beat me. Brian was right. He's a woman beater. He turned around. He tried to hit me. What am I supposed to do? I have to carry protection. I mean, I can't help it if every man in the world wants me and everyone, they can't resist me. I have to protect myself. And he came after me, tried to hit me. And what am I supposed to do? I have to protect myself.
What's he supposed to do, Bob? Tracy Smothers a woman beater. You seen him grab her. You seen him grab Tammy Fitch. They just like the rest of all these coal man and bumpers up in the hills. When they see a real woman, they're just like cavemen. They grab them by the hair. They try to drag them around. They don't know anything about a date. They don't know anything about taking them out to a movie. All they know about takeout dinner. They go to McDonald's and drag them to it. He's a pervert. Look at him. He's a pervert.
Hey, you
Here's
prima
Smothers
donna.
now. Wait a minute.
Hey, you prima donna. We ain't gotta wait. Give me a title match right now. Get your butt in here, you prima donna. And you too, you tramp. Right now. Tramp.
All righty, there he goes, fans. But we don't have any time left. We don't have time for this. We're going to have to go.
All right. So Tammy calls Tracy a woman beater, and she's not lying. You know, not only has
Well,
Tracy said on multiple occasions that he's, you know, going to whoop Tammy's butt, he actually has done it. He has put Tammy over his knee on this show and whooped her butt.
well, that just makes you a bigger baby face in Eastern Kentucky.
Yep. So primetime Brian Lee, I don't even know if he's really our top heel, but a top heel, is standing up for women's rights. Um,
Okay, quite honestly, Jim Cornette is the top heel, and it's not close. Brian Lee
so
is
with 20,
theoretically in the top three.
so with 23 seconds left on the show, Tracy Smothers comes out and leads the crowd in a chant of tramp and challenges primetime Brian Lee to a title match. Brian Lee storms to the ring, and that's when the show goes off the air. I gotta say, Tracy, being the great babyface he is, challenges a man to a title match who just was in one. I don't know about this.
Well, yeah. I hope next week's show starts exactly here.
And they pretend that it's like an entire week has passed.
Yeah, just not even acknowledge it.
Okay. So that does it for Smoky Mountain, a fantastic show when you ignore any of the wrestling going on, but everything else was just fantastic on this show.
It's like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like the
uh,
wrestling was all right, but it's like, the non-wrestling stuff was miles and miles ahead.
by far, by far. But this was
Yeah.
at least a lot happened on this show. It was there was a lot of good content at least.
Yes. So before we go, we're going to tell you what else is happening in the world of wrestling, because as always, I can tell you August 7th, 1993 until I'm blue in the face. But this way, you have some context. And the big news is this week was G1 Climax 3, as New Japan ran 7 straight nights for the third annual G1. 4 of those shows sold out, and they made between $3 and $4 million. TRAE, who won G1 Climax 3?
Tatsumi Fujinami beat Hiroshi Hase in the finals, right?
Yes, in fact, that's what happened. Tatsumi Fujinami beat Hiroshi Hase in the finals after Hase had ended Masachono's quest for a three-peat in the semifinals. So Hase got to be the first person to beat Shono in the G1, or in, the final rounds of the G1, and then Fujinami beat him. Um, And then to continue the New Japan news, Koji Kanemoto was scheduled to debut as the newest incarnation of Tiger Mask, and he was supposed to wrestle 7 straight nights against 7 top junior heavyweights in New Japan. Unfortunately, on the first night, his first match against Shinjiro Houtani, he separated his shoulder. He tried wrestling on the second night, but the match had to be called after 3 or 4 minutes, and Otani filled in for the last 5 matches.
Well, that's a shame. Tiger Mask
Yes.
Kanemoto was like it as a wrestler. Koji Kanemoto, I wouldn't say is the lesser Tiger Mask, but as a Tiger Mask, he is the least of the 4 Tiger Masks. But it's because he was never comfortable being Tiger Mask. He was a billion times better as Koji Kanemoto as he ever was as Tiger Mask.
Well, to come back across the pond to America, do you remember a month ago when we talked about how WCW had their Disney tapings where they taped months of stuff in advance, and how there was danger that, hey, something may happen in real life that contradicts this tape stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Road Warrior Hawk has dropped out of his WCW commitments which included being Dustin Rhodes' mystery partner at the Clash of the Champions coming up and being part of the War Games at Fall Brawl. And he is expected to be replaced in the War Games match by Typhoon of the Natural Disasters, but under a different name. I wonder what that could be.
Under a different name, indeed. A meme is about to be
Um,
born.
Yep. And also, I should know, buried deep in the Observer this week, but also plays a big part of this Disney taping fiasco. Brian Pillman got severely injured and is expected to be out for about a month, and that could really shoot in the foot the already taped uh, post of Clash of the Champions, where Arn Anderson and Paul Roma defeated uh, Pillman and Austin for the World Tag Team titles.
Yeah, that is going to create a problem.
Yes, but we'll get to Clash of the Champions in a few weeks. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this week's show. Before we go, Trey, do you want to plug anything, like the end of humanity or anything like that?
Yeah, Humanity, 2 out of 10 would not repeat. Don't recommend. I
But
don't know.
go check out the Oh My God cast. You know, I
Yeah.
promise at some point he's gonna review TWA's Autumn Armageddon 1990. I bet it was maybe not a fantastic show, but I bet it's a fantastic show talking about that show. So
Yeah.
go check that out. And that's going to do it from here. So I want to thank everyone for listening who's still listening after the first 20 minutes. Hope you all have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.